Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Spirit of Cricket talk. I see lots of cricket fans, some cricket tragics, and some of you just want to hold on to your seats. So it's nice to see you all. The panelists have already been introduced, but I will show you their books as I have them here. Venkat, former Indian first-class player, and now author of this, Indian Cricket Then and Now. All of these are available in the bookshop. You guys should get your hands on them. Amrit is a recognizable figure to anyone who's put the telly on to watch Indian cricket. His book, Pitchside, My Life in Cricket. And Ajay is here. He has not written a book, but he has played 15 tests and 197 one-dayers, so we let him on. So both these books are chronicles. One is a personal journey, Amrit's. The other one is really the journey of Indian cricket from its inception. You know, when I was reading them, and you must all read them, they're very readable and very entertaining. What struck me is there's a great deference to the history and the journey of Indian cricket in the language that both of them use. And also very much the change in attitudes that we all talk about these days of Indian cricket over the last 10 years, 20 years, it's all in there. So it's really worth a read. The funnest thing is the anecdotes. And of all you cricket fans here, that's the most entertaining part. Like, for instance, your book has the origin of Mankad. Even I didn't know that Vinu Mankad was the first man to do the Mankad, and since then he has been christened on that. Amrit, the anecdote that sticks with me is India-Pakistan, how Captain Wasim Akram and Javed Miandad, the coach, didn't get along. That was a lot of fun. And Ajay, obviously, the one thing that we all remember about you is that one shot, I don't know what you call it, is a back foot flick over long on of Wakar in 96. We still have to figure out what that's called. Is that the shot that everyone remembers the most, you think? Yeah? You need the mic here.
I guess so.
Okay.
That's the only one probably I've hit in my life. So.
I mean, I'm going to do a show of hands of those who know what I'm talking about. The back foot flick. Okay, that's quite a few. That's good. Okay. So let me start with you, Venkat. What led to this book? Tell us.
Well, it's an interesting story. I have a WhatsApp group of 150 cricketers. There are a few test players, but mostly first-class cricketers, several of whom have distinguished themselves on the cricket field. They're very big names in their time, but they were not lucky enough to play for the country, because only 11 or 12 can play for the country at any time. And they lost out. But the passion for the game continued. And I thought it would be good for all of us to share our thoughts and memories and stay in touch as we grow older. And in this process, we were celebrating Independence Day 2 years ago, 22. And there was a lot of euphoria about 75th Independence Day, etc. And the mood was a bit celebratory, and you can imagine what it would be like. And there are 45 captains of different states from Kashmir to Kerala in this group. And there are many eminent first-class cricketers who are now settled in America and in England and other parts of the world who are part of this group. So we were saying, let's do something constructive, let's do something positive. And the thought came to me that, there was an Indian cricketer, very famous Indian cricketer, who was reaching a landmark. He and Dravid were batting in a test match, and they were just short of Vinu Mankad and Roy's world record at that time of 413 runs. And somebody went and asked Sehwag, do you know that you're only about 30 runs short of Roy and Mankad? And he asked, who's Mankad? Now, Mankad was the most iconic cricketer you can ever imagine. He was an all-rounder of world class. I don't have to introduce him here. I'm sure many of you know Vinu Mankad, a great Mankad family. And, it was so interesting. So I said, let's do a book, because while Sehwag may not know Mankad, I'm sure Virat Kohli may not know C.K. Naidu or XYZ. I'm just throwing names. So we said, let's do a book about the rise of Indian cricket. It's not a history of Indian cricket. That will take many volumes and many years of research. And most of you will be bored because it will be too voluminous. So we thought, let's do a book which picks important personalities, picks important turning points, and highlights this and makes for interesting reading. Let's act anecdotal. For example, I'm taking a bit of time, with your permission. There's Abbas Ali Beg. Everybody knows about the famous kiss at Bombay, when an enthusiastic lady ran onto the field after he scored a 50 against Australia and kissed him. But you know what happened thereafter? And thereby hangs a tale which is narrated by Abbas Ali Beg in the book. So it's very interesting. There are a few jokes and toasts and a bit of humor. And we wanted to make it interesting. And I must thank HarperCollins, who did a fantastic job in editing and putting it together.
Just to add a bit of context to that, essentially it's a book with a series of essays through the period of Indian cricket, and then there are little bits about the personalities. So, you know, the book starts with the Parsi teams of the late 1800s. Then it goes into the sort of end of colonization, the 71 series in England, the spin quartet, then, you know, Sunil Gavaskar, then you've got Kapil Dev, then you've got Virat Kohli. But, you know, I think what the people really want to know is where is the chapter on Ajay Jadeja?
Well, you see, in a book like this, I've been asked so many times, why is Polly Umrigar missing?
Don't worry. Ajay, I have a chapter of you in my book. You got it.
One sec. You understand why I'm not coming to this. Because he doesn't need a chapter, he needs a book. He's a former Indian captain. You know, while introducing him, I think he forgot to mention it, captained India. He's a robust personality, an icon. And to put him into a few paragraphs in one chapter would be reducing his status. Like that, you know, in those days, when we played cricket in the 60s and 70s, it was all Mumbai cricket and West Zone. Nobody else was even considered a cricketer. We were sitting here in Rajasthan, and they had fabulous cricketers in those days. They had Salim Durrani, Vijay Manjrekar, they had Hanuman Singh, they had Suryavir Singh, they had Salim Durrani, all from Rajasthan. And they reached the final 7 times, but nobody talks about Rajasthan cricket. So, you know, we picked up players, and few players from each zone. There's a chapter on services cricket. Imagine the sacrifices those guys made. There are people who played 24 matches for services. Now the board gives them a pension when you play 25. They missed out on pension because they were serving in the forward areas, in Siachen and other places, in the 71 war, 65 war. We've been full of wars. 62 war, and those veterans don't get any money, neither from the services nor from Indian cricket. That's how we played, for passion. And they would get 2 months leave in a year. In those 2 months, instead of going back home and spending time with the family, they would come and play Ranji Trophy and other matches. So that's the type of sacrifice that has got Indian cricket from being a colonial upstart to where it is today, where it is controlling, I won't say controlling, where it is contributing to cricket worldwide and supporting cricket worldwide, including in the associate states. Ajay here, as I said, needed a book. He is now associated as a mentor with the Afghanistan team. And look how that team is performing. The moment he's taken charge, it's rising. So I think now cricket has spread to the villages. It has spread far and wide. Everybody wants to be an IPL star. Everybody wants to be the next Virat Kohli or the next Kapil Dev or the next Jadeja. So, you know, this is how cricket has spread. It was not so in the past. It was very difficult. There was a player in the book, it's written about Palwankar Balu. How many people have heard Palwankar Balu? He was a groundsman in, I think it was in Bombay. And the Brits used to come and play there. And one of them noticed that this boy is very talented. And he didn't have clothes, he didn't have shoes, nothing. And he was so outstanding that he went to England and performed brilliantly. He went on 3 tours to England. And he was only kept out of first-class cricket and other cricket because he was from the backward classes. But that's the story of cricket. That's how it has developed in this country.
I think you dodged that bouncer very well, by the way. The Ajay Jadeja bouncer. But Amrit, on to you now.
Yeah.
I mean, his book is essentially the story of, well, it's your story, but it's essentially the story of cricket from pretty much the 90s onwards. And I think one of the most interesting things for me, at least, the age that I am, is that 92 series in South Africa. Now, Ajay, that was your first international series at the same time?
The first test series.
Yeah. So you had just come off that catch of Alan Border in 92. Now, they had come to India, right? South Africa had come to India, played their first international match. We beat them. And then we saw them in 92 in Australia. And then we realized that, hang on a minute, these guys are a little bit better than we thought. So when you were going to South Africa, what were you thinking about their team? Tell us a little bit about that.
Listen, it was a very significant tour, 92. We were the first team to tour South Africa after apartheid. And there was a political context to the tour because at that time we did not recognize South Africa as a country. Our passports were stamped not valid for Israel and South Africa. So that is a place we were not supposed to be in. And we were going on tour. We knew nothing about the country from a cricket point of view. There was no preparation before we left. There was no camp. We just assembled in Bombay, collected our clothes and off to South Africa. The playing conditions were not sorted. Nothing was known. So it was like going on a highway on a dark night without a Google map.
Hang on, you were the youngest Indian manager. You're still the youngest Indian manager, right? When you were in South Africa?
Not really. I was young. I'm almost the same age as Kapil on the tour. But there have been, I think, Fateh Singh Rai Gaikwad, who was younger. But that's besides the point. When we went to South Africa, we knew nothing about their cricket, their pitches, grounds, players. There was complete ignorance. But when we reached, we were in for a shock because they were totally prepared. They had a very strong domestic structure. Their team was professional, hungry, ready to compete and prove themselves on the world stage. We went as a group of 17 people, 14 members of the team, players. I was the manager. We had Ajit Wadekar as the coach. And we had Dr. Ali Irani, who was physio, trainer, doctor, assistant manager, everything else. So now when you look at a team, the Indian team on tour, there are about 40 people, 20 players and 20 support staff. On that tour of South Africa, I and Ali were helping out with the fielding drills because there was nobody else to do it. And the tour was significant also from the point of view that everybody was looking forward to that big tour in South Africa. And there were a lot of, when we reached there, we were taken out in a motorcade in Durban. It was like some visiting dignitaries arriving. There were lots of social events. There was non-stop functions to attend. So everybody got a bit tired of all that. And I remember that there was so much demand for public speaking. And as the manager is the leader of the delegation, so I had to do it a lot of time. Then I realized that ye zyada ho gaya hai. So I asked Kapil to do it on a few occasions. He was very good. Then we turned to Mr. Jadeja, the youngest member of the team, and he made very entertaining speeches on the tour. So we were taken by surprise on the tour in terms of the cricket. We didn't do very well. And I think we'll let Ajay talk about how he coped in the test series against their fast bowlers, especially Schultz, and also some other memories. I think let's let Ajay speak about the tour a bit.
Good afternoon, everyone. About that tour, as he mentioned, I think that was a different era. It was probably an era where, as we know cricket was about changing. Because when I was a kid growing up, playing even first-class cricket, there weren't any coaches, there weren't any managers, which is unheard of in these days. As he said, there were 40 people. And it was a tour, me being 21 at that time, I was definitely not thinking of anything. Cricket was played differently. I think it was, the approach of the game was totally different. So, like how you mentioned that you didn't have a camp or we weren't prepared, I don't think people used to go on tours before that ever being prepared. It was more to experience. You had an opportunity to represent your country or your cricket team, and you just felt blessed to be part of this team which had the greats of Kapil Dev, somebody like him in that side and many other greats in that side. So I wasn't thinking much about what we're going to do on that tour. But as he said, they were well prepared. They were very well prepared and they were very smart. In fact, I remember that first game that we had. Generally in olden days, you went to a country, you played against a county side or a side game, which got you into the groove for the test series. And they had 11 people turned up, and I think those 11, they had just got hold of them from whoever was available to play. And we started that game with 1 wicket down. We were like 550 for one, and we thought the tour was going to be easy. Wait till the moment till you get to the test match, and it was mayhem. He mentioned Brett Schultz, Alan Donald, known as White Lightning in those days, had just come out of darkness. So we were totally surprised for sure. We weren't prepared. We definitely weren't prepared to play that kind of seam and fast bowling in those days. But things today have changed. Our team prepare differently. The game is played in a different way. It's a professional sport now. So I was probably at the cusp of, the period that he was talking about and where we are now. So I'm blessed to have been around there. And most of my cricketing knowledge, or, I wasn't one of those who read much, or still pretty much there. But it was mostly family stories that I had heard. And in the family, we are fourth generation cricketers, test cricketers. So everybody who played cricket in our family was, it was always talked as it is a sport. It keeps you healthy. It's a way to make friends. It's a way to travel. And it's a necessity in life because especially if you were in England, you only had sun out in the summer. So this sport was meant to be out there. It was a healthy sport, waking up on time, meals after every couple of hours. And today, the sport that we see is totally different.
Amrish, on the tour, some unique things happened in the first test itself. The first test was at Durban. We had Sachin Tendulkar had just run out because of a television replay. That was the first time in history that television was meant to adjudicate on line decisions, and Sachin was the first victim. Also in that game, on the first ball of the test match, Kapil Dev got a wicket. The opener, Jimmy Cook, caught it first slip by Tendulkar. Also, that was Praveen Amre's debut game, and he made 100. So you had a dismissal through television, you had a first ball dismissal of a test match, you had a debutant playing at Durban on a seaming track, making 100. So it was a good series cricket point of view. We didn't do very well. But I'm sure Ajay would remember one innings of Kapil at Port Elizabeth in a test match. India was 27 for 5, 31 for 6, and Kapil made 129 from there, out of a team to a total of 215. Ajay, your memories of the game?
It was a game that I wasn't playing because I'd played a couple of games. Then I had an injury, so I wasn't there. But it was Kapil Dev. I mean, people. I'm sure everyone's here seen Kapil Dev play because I don't see many young people here. Because a lot of kids, you ask Kapil Dev and they say, "Who's Kapil Dev?" But for us, Kapil Dev was cricket, is cricket, and will remain cricket. And it was just him. It tells you that inning, of course, the scores you will know, and I think it tells you the spirit of Kapil Dev and Indian cricket from there on. I think what he did, not just there, but even in that World Cup game against Zimbabwe when he scored that 175. So when team was down and out, you look to Kapil Dev, and I actually refer to him as Devo ke Dev, Kapil Dev. So he is our Dev. So he was not just in that inning, but I think all throughout my life and career, I'm blessed to have had time with him. He was one who got me to go to Haryana as well and play at a very young age of 16, first class cricket. So I'm always, I've been blessed by him a lot. And that innings that he refers to just showed you the spirit of that man. And that man was definitely different from everyone else that I have interacted in cricket. Not just then, but even now, I doubt that I'm yet to see something like that. I mean, a player like him is one thing, but the spirit that he played the game with, and it never mattered what stage of the game or what stage the team was in, he was always out there to bail you out, and that was Kapil Dev.
A little more on Kapil on the tour. I think we all known Kapil and his high level of fitness, that he never missed a game because of either mental, fatigue or physical strain or any injury.
So I'll let me tell that
story. Hang on. So there was this game where he pulled a hamstring, and before a test match, there were doubts whether he should be playing. And I think the coach, Wadekar, and the physio, Ali, both thought that Kapil should not be playing. But Kapil would hear nothing of this at all, and he said, "Main to khel raha hoon." So they still put him through a fitness test in the morning, which he did. And he was in obvious pain and obviously not fit to play. But he came through that, played, and did his part. And I remember Ali just shaking his head that only Paji can do this. Also, on many occasions, the team would be at the ground after practice or after a day's play. Kapil and Ajay would run back to the hotel. You had a full day's play, but it's not that you need to rest. Kapil and they would just sort of not take the bus and run back. I think also in one game you had an injury.
I have a claim to fame on that because Kapil Dev's never been hit on his head ever. And he's missed out on that one because on that tour we first went to Zimbabwe and then we went to South Africa. So practicing in the nets, the game night, the evening before we were practicing, and a ball just took off. I was bowling to him and he got hit on his eye, and he had 12 stitches. And can you imagine today somebody playing a test match? Next morning he played that test match too. So that was Kapil Dev. And
there's one more incident which I think some of us here would remember. This goes back to 81, where India beat Australia in a test match in Melbourne, where Kapil was so bad that he couldn't get down the steps of the hotel to reach the ground. And he and Dilip Doshi bowled out Australia, which had Greg Chappell and all these guys, for 81 runs in the second innings, and India won that test and drew the series for the first time against Australia.
Just to pick up on what you were saying, Ajay, earlier about Alan Donald. In my reckoning, you faced Curtly Ambrose, Donald, Akram. Who else am I missing? McGrath also, you had a little patch with him. So who was the scariest for you? What was the one that you didn't want to face? And what was it about it?
Neither. I would have preferred spinners all the time. But you got to say, I think it's probably not politically correct to say here, or no, I mean India at this moment, talk about a Pakistani bowler, but I don't think there has been a better fast bowler or a swing bowler or a seam bowler than Wasim Akram that I've seen in my lifetime. He's just unbelievable. That man, most fast bowlers you hear have skills, pace, but they move the ball only when it's new. I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, our neighbors have the skill to move the old ball as well. There's a lot of thumb that went into it. But, he was probably the scariest man to ever play.
Amrish, there was this test match, India playing Pakistan in Calcutta. That was the game when Sachin was run out and there was a bit of a controversy about his run out decision. I think the same game, Shoaib Akhtar got Sachin and Dravid out on successive balls. That was the game Wasim was captain of the Pakistan team. And you had a really fractured Pakistan team. Wasim as the captain, Javed Miazad as the coach, and they would not talk to each other. And we had Saeed Anwar, who made 180 out of a team total of 300. And Javed would not speak to Saeed Anwar also. I'm mentioning all this because I was attached to the Pakistan team at that time, and I was part of the team in the dressing room. So I saw this up close. Now, in that game, Wasim Akram was very unwell. He's diabetic and he was running a fever and he was in no condition to play. But it was an important test match. He would go out, bowl in the humid conditions of Calcutta, come back to the dressing room during lunch and at tea and just pass out. But as soon as the time was up for play to start, he was back again. So fantastic spirit and total commitment. In a way like Kapil Dev, that jab khelna hai to fitness, fatigue, injury doesn't matter. That way, I think, remember a game in South Africa where you had a injury to your hand and webbing, and he still played. And I can remember many occasions where players with much lesser injury would not have come out of the hotel. He mentioned Kapil having 12 stitches. On that same tour, Kepler Wessels and Fanny de Villiers, their fast bowler, they were practicing a day before a game and taking high catches, and they collided. And both had multiple stitches, and Fanny was badly injured. But both played the next day. I think times have changed. Now we have a team which has physio, trainer, doctor, and masseur in the works. And maybe the players are softer. Maybe the players are not willing to take that risk when it comes to play because so much is at stake.
Or maybe the media is too powerful these days.
I'm glad we're telling it as it is today. Amrit, there were 3 innings that you were behind the scenes that I want to just allude to, that you can fill in some color, because we've all seen the matches, we know the scores. Yeah. One was Yuvraj at Lord's, when he became his own in 2003, I think that was, right?
2002.
Two.
The NatWest tour.
Then there was Sachin's Pakistan Blitz in Centurion.
That's the 2003
That was
World
2003,
Cup.
right?
2003 World Cup.
3 World Cup.
Yeah.
And the third that I can remember is Virender Sehwag singing through, making 300 runs in Pakistan, right? So these are 3 incredible innings. Could you fill a little bit of color as to what was going on behind the scenes?
Listen, the Lord's game, the NatWest final was special in the sense that it was a game we'd sort of lost. We were 5 down to 140, chasing a lot. And many people in the crowd had actually left by the time Sachin got out. The game was over. Nobody gave India a chance. But then Yuvraj, Kaif and others, and it was an absolutely improbable victory. And then we also remember not just Kaif and Yuvraj, but we also remember the game for Saurav Ganguly and the way he took off his shirt inspired Salman Khan. And Salman Khan is still doing that after 20 years. So that was a special moment because it was a final of a tournament. And it was also at Lord's, which has a special sort of meaning for every cricketer. The other innings you mentioned was 2003, the Sachin centurion knock against Pakistan. That was absolutely special, and I was in the dressing room, and I watched Sachin come back after that fantastic innings, 96 or something. He was drained, he was cramping, and he had difficulty, sort of playing towards the end. He came back into the dressing room, watched his dismissal on the television screen, just sat there, and actually shedding tears. Not tears in the sense of disappointment that he couldn't close the game. But anyway, we won. And I remember asking him that, how good was this? He said, कई दिन होते हैं जबकि 150 की बॉल भी लगती है 120 पे आ रही है. So it was my day, it was my rhythm. And he said, I had been practicing and training for this game for 2 years, thinking about it. So that also shows the kind of preparation, the kind of focus that somebody like him. But there's a more interesting story to this innings. Before the game, like everybody else does, during the warm-up, you go to the ground, you do a bit of knocking, you look at the pitch, you sort of get into the mood of the match. So Sachin did all that, came back to the dressing room, and I just asked him, "Kaisa?" He said, "हाँ, देख लिया, सब ठीक लग रहा है, wicket भी अच्छा है." Then he said, "एक चीज़ बताता हूँ आपको." I said, "What?" He said, मैं गया था वहाँ पे बाउंड्री की तरफ, तो थर्ड मैन की बाउंड्री है, उसमें मैंने घास देखी. द घास की जो ब्लेड्स हैं, दे आर पॉइंटिंग टुवर्ड्स द विकेट. तो आई सेड, इसका क्या मतलब है? घास एट द थर्ड मैन बाउंड्री फेसिंग द विकेट, हाउ डज इट मैटर? ही सेड, नहीं, वहाँ बॉल खेलेंगे तो धीरे हो जाएगी, 2 मिल जाएंगे एक की बजाय. सो यू हैव बैट्समैन हु फैक्टर इन द ऑपोजिशन, clouds, moisture, wicket. I have never heard of anybody looking at the blades of the grass on the third man boundary. So that's how his mind works. So, it just shows the kind of inputs and the kind of preparation that somebody like him puts into a game.
Well, I was the head Mali of the BCCI for many years. And
you are responsible for all the rotten akhadas we've made?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was, Sachin was a nemesis as far as curators were concerned. Not that he asked you to fiddle with the wicket, he never did. He never even bothered about what type of wicket you gave him. But he was absolutely, what should I say, I have the right word to describe it. He was finicky about when it came to the side screen. And he would meet me and say, "Sir, wo jo screen hai na sir, it is a cream colored background, it should be white colored. और वो जो chair है ना sir, वो chair का, because the chairs were, for the spectators, there were covers which were put on the chair, on the back of the chair, which were generally grey sometimes white, sometimes, it was any color. And he said, "I want all the chairs in white by tomorrow morning." And here the whole of the cricket administration went into a tizzy how to get that. Not only that, at Lord's, he was going to play a test match. And he said, he called the administrators, he said the steps leading down from the Lord's dressing room to the ground need to be painted white. And they did it. Because if Sachin did not play, there would be no cricket.
Ajay, do you think they would have done it if you had said to paint it white?
I'm sure they wouldn't have. You wouldn't have even acknowledged me. I think it's Tendulkar that everybody acknowledges. Talking about that blade of grass and Tendulkar here, I think things haven't changed. When he comes to the golf course now, and people who play golf will know why you look at the blade of the grass much more. He's as finicky as he was when he was playing cricket with golf as well. So it's no more 4-hour round, it's a 7-hour round with Tendulkar.
So tell me, Ajay, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going through your head when you're walking out in 1996 in Bangalore with Wakar on the other side? What's happening there? Because you pretty much won that match for us, I think.
I don't know. I mean, I guess I was in a what they call zone. And now that I work with, younger boys and try and talk to them, I mean, just for everyone else to understand, I think cricket is very complicated. People like us, when we do broadcasting or talking about it, make it sound very complicated. It's almost how you meditate. If you're meditating and you're thinking about your breath in, out, after a while you don't think. And that's the state that you get into in meditation. And that's what cricket is when you play sport. I think most batsmen, and if you ask them, on a good day or a day where they felt good, they are just with, instead of that breath, it's probably the ball, it's like he said, the blade of the grass, the wind conditions, what's happening there. So on your good days, actually, you don't remember anything. It's only on your bad days that you remember each and everything. When you're walking out, what you were feeling, what was the pressure, or, you're thinking about something. I still try and recollect. A lot of people have asked me this question, but I still haven't found an answer. I think I was just not thinking. I think I was too drunk from the party the night before, and just walked there with my head low, kept my head down, and it was just one of those lucky days. It doesn't happen. If a sportsman knew exactly how it works, he would do it day in and day out. Even a great Tendulkar has only scored, 100 hundreds? He's had 700 innings. So if he could do it every day, if he knew how he was thinking on a particular day, he would repeat it. But it doesn't happen. There are some days you're blessed to be there. And, if you believe in, somebody up there, there are days that it works for you. And it was just one of those days.
Amrish, on Sachin, some more information. We all know about his cricket and what was special about him. It's 35,000 international runs and his batting records. But it's the smaller, simple things which stand out with him. On a tour, I've seen him many times. His is the neatest, cleanest room, everything in place. His is the most organized kit bag. You look at his coffin, the bats, the batting gloves, the helmet, everything's properly arranged. You have never to sort of remind him about a team meeting or a commitment. He's always there, he's always on time. And on a tour, you have this thing of leaving your baggage out because you have to catch a flight next morning. So maybe the guideline is 10 o'clock, bags out. So his would be the first bag out. So these are small things which show that he's so organized. And he's humble. He is, doesn't throw his weight around in the dressing room. He maintains and helps to keep a very happy dressing room. But when he's on the field, he's Rajnikant. He's a totally different person. He's Bahubali. And I remember the first tour in South Africa in '92. He was very young then. He just about had a few good years in Test cricket, and everybody in South Africa was very keen on knowing about him. And he made runs, and I remember Ali Bakar coming and saying, "Look, guys, this person is a genius. He's like Don Bradman. The only difference is everybody likes Sachin." So.
Just to add, in 1997, I was lucky enough to be the manager of the Indian cricket team to Sri Lanka. Ajay was on that tour. And one day, Sachin came to my room and said, my kit bag, which was, we used to call it the coffin, it was a big bag. And he says, the handle is broken. Sir, I want it repaired. So I talked to the local manager who was assigned to us by the Sri Lankan board. I said, this is Sachin's bag. And he said, I don't want anything touched. There are few personal items in the bag. I don't want it to be touched. So I told that chap, look, this is what Sachin has told me. This is his bag and this is the handle and it needs to be stitched. But don't change the handle. He said, don't change the handle. So that guy had a problem on his hand. He said, I don't know whether it can be repaired or not, but I'll try. And for 2 days, Sachin kept asking me, where is my bag? Where is my bag? Finally, they did a good job. But he was very finicky. He said, sir, I've got 3 things there. One is a Ganesh. One is the Indian flag, and there's some third item. But he says, I don't want anybody to touch any of those things. So I was even more scared than Sachin, because the bag should come back in healthy, and also it should be meeting his standards. Finally, it took place. But he was very, very particular about these things.
Before I open it up to questions, I want to ask this very candid panel a slightly harder topic that we currently have, which is the state of the game today. And we could go into the BCCI, etc., but we don't have a huge amount of time. What I want to talk about is something that's come up a lot since the last World Cup, which is the ugly Indian fan. And the reason I want to bring it up is because this is the first time I have felt a certain reserve to what is actually going on over there. I think what we saw in those couple of World Cup matches and the kind of news that was coming out of the Indian fan and how they're behaving with both visitors and the teams. What do you guys think about that? What do you think is where are we going? What do you feel about it? Do you think it's an aberration, or do you think it's something deeper than that? Let's start with you, Ajay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know the incident that you're talking about, but I think it's the fans that make this game what it is today in this country. So I doubt that anybody who's playing this game has any complaints with the fan. I think they're all grateful to, I mean, I'm not talking on behalf of the players, but I don't know what they feel personally, but at least the way I see it, I think they're probably grateful to the fans that they have and the support that they come out, at every ground, not just for the games, but I think at the practice sessions. I think that's when you really meet your fans. They are there when you're practicing, when there's no one else around, there are few of them. But I think the players are generally grateful to the fans that they have, and we are blessed. I think as Indian cricketers, we are blessed to have the Indian fans that you have today. Because if it wasn't for the fans who come and, be at the ground, appreciate the art that you are trying to display, everybody's trying to do their best. And a simple line, I think we are blessed to have the Indian cricket fan, and I don't think anyone's complaining. If there hasn't been an incident, there may have been one or two. And not just with cricket fans, I think in anywhere in life, you'll always find the odd ones, and you need to probably ignore those and appreciate the ones that really come out there and support this game.
Fair enough. Amrit, anything?
No, I agree with what Ajay said, and there might have been some isolated cases, but generally the game is because of the fans, and they turn up every time, whether India is winning, losing. So I think fans are absolutely fundamental, basic to the sport, and we are lucky that we have such a massive fan base supporting cricket. And some incidents happen. They happen not only in India, they happen in Australia, especially on a hot day when people have too much to drink and sitting in the sun. And it's happened in Zimbabwe, it's happened in South Africa. So I don't think it's an issue. And as Ajay said, we are just fortunate that we have such a massive fan following for the sport.
Yeah, I think that Ajay has put it very succinctly that we owe our rise in cricket to our fans. They're awesome. However, I suggest humbly that the administrators should also be a little concerned about unruly behavior. You could have marshals there, and you should also have an education system that the crowd should behave. They're as much representatives of India as anybody, as the players. Because nowadays a match being played internationally goes worldwide. And if you got some, some roguish behavior on the ground, some abusive behavior, whatever, earlier they used to throw things on the ground, if you remember. Now they've stopped that. Why? Because the administrators say if you're caught, you'll be thrown out of the ground. Some small thing like this can stop any nonsense being, flounder. But I think people are looking for their two minutes in the sun, really, I think it's a little bit of media creation because media also focuses on these type of incidents and blows it out of proportion. I think a little bit of guidance there to the spectators is necessary, and it is a small step, and I think it will make a huge difference. And all this type of thing that is being talked about will stop.
I think before we take questions from the audience, I want to ask two questions, one of Venkat and one of Ajay. Ajay first.
All these years you haven't had the time?
No. I want to ask you a question so that everybody can benefit from your wisdom. Listen, you were captain for a long time. You captained at every stage, school, college, university, state, North Zone, rest of India, whatever. And the captain took decisions and he ran the team. But now you're part of franchise cricket, you're part of international teams, and you have a captain whose role looks diminished. You have a coach, you have a mentor, you have assistants, you have a data guy, all breathing down the neck of the captain. So how do you see the changing role of a captain?
I think it's unfortunate because, as when we grew up, captain was the man who led your side and he was responsible, he was the guide, he was the one who thought how you were going to play and how you approached. Unfortunately, it's not the boys. I think it's us, the administrators who are running the game at the moment. At under 15, you have these rules that the boys can't go and see the pitch. You have 5 coaches that you've given: fielding coach, batting coach, head coach. And when you have people employed, you know how it is. People like to do their job and they want to do what they are supposed to do. So a kid from, say, 15, when he starts playing at school also, is never made a decision. He's never looked at the pitch. He's never looked at a pitch to say whether we should bat first, bowl first. He's never thought when he's playing a match, gets beaten by the opposition, where we should have bowled to a player or not. So the education of sport that is happening now, which is very rightly done, I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I personally feel playing a sport was also about you growing up. Playing a sport was also making mistakes and learning. Unfortunately now, we don't accept mistakes. You want your players to be perfect. So the same boy gets to all those stages that he talked about, and he has 5 coaches all along. And 7 years, 8 years into his cricketing life, he is now, say, captain of India, or someday next player who will get there, would have always been assisted by somebody. So how does he ever grow up and make decisions on his own? So you're losing out on individuality. That is, I think, the saddest part of this sport, that you used to have, like the period that he was talking about, when those 11 men walked on the field, they all had different collars, different sleeves, different ways of walking. Now you see them as robots coming into play. They wear the same clothes, same logos. So many things have changed, and amongst that, this is probably the thing. I'm fortunate to have, like I said, been on the cusp of it. I'm enjoying the other side as well.
But would you be okay as a captain to have a mentor and a data guy and everybody else telling you what to do?
I think data guys are great because they help you out. I mean, because there is so much cricket now. Earlier you only played against the same sides. You knew exactly how somebody played. Now with these leagues around the world, there are about 1,000 cricketers that are playing cricket. I mean, there are more than 1,000 cricketers who put their names to be picked in the IPL. So no human being is actually going to be able to look at each one of them. But if you have data guys, if you have enough information, then you can read through it. You still need to use your brain. But yes, me personally, I think I've just come from a team. I'm going back. I'm grateful to have a side who's allowed me to work with them. The captain that we have is making his own decisions, because if I had my way, I would like the captain on the field, because at the end of the day, it is a sport and it's an instinctive sport. It changes ball by ball. There is no coach who will be able to communicate on a ball to ball basis. And if you want your players and team to grow, I feel you've got to allow the captain to make decisions, and that's the only way to grow in this sport.
Sorry, Amrit, I've got to open it up because we've only got 5 minutes. I'm sure there are people who want to ask questions. So, can we go to the back, please? Who's got the mic? That lady there, she's...
Hi, Ajay. Would like to ask you a question about your childhood. My son happened to play cricket, underage cricket with Haryana Cricket Association, and the officials there remember you as a live wire of the team. So any anecdote you would share? The toothpaste one on the train that probably you did while you were traveling, that was one I heard very often.
Thank you. Yeah, it takes us back because, like I said, we were kids and we would, have fun. It wasn't Haryana, but I'll give you an anecdote. There were, in most teams, in junior teams, you always have somebody who's been recommended in the side who you hadn't seen before, and he joins your team last minute at the station. The managers will tell you how it happens. And most boys know each other. So if there was somebody who had, joined you in the last minute or has been put into that side, would always be troubled. And, it's a long time ago. But we were mischievous lot, and, we would trouble the young guys who were in that side who were not meant to be there. And toothpaste was our prime. I mean, in those days, we didn't have many other things to trouble boys with. So toothpaste would be all over his body when he wakes up in the morning, or all over his face. So he didn't have to pick up the toothpaste. He could just take the brush and wipe it off and just brush his face.
The gentleman there sitting, yes.
Hi, question for all of you. When we were youngsters, the most frequent gesture from a fielder used to be "tera hai." I mean, fielding used to be really bad. then came Azharuddin, then came you, followed by Kaf, Yuvraj Singh, which changed the way we looked at cricket. I just want opinion of all of you, the doyens of Indian cricket, on the strictness of a fitness regime versus the creativity involved in this game of cricket. How do you balance? What way should we approach? Because we've seen players like Sehwag and we have players in present generation who are tremendously creative but not fit. So, your comments on this?
Well, I played with Bishan Bedi for 15 years and I'm still alive. Bishan was the hardest taskmaster you could ever meet. And he would say, "Bhagte, bhagte, chalo, jab gir jao, fir utke, fir bhago." That was his theory. There was not much science behind it, but he had seen the footballers in England and various county sides in England, and he felt that if you were physically fit, especially he felt that Indians by generic, norms or whatever, their legs were weak. So he would make you hold bricks in your hand and climb stairs in the stadium for 1 hour. It was torture. It was third degree. It was nothing less than that. But we went through that, and it improved us as cricketers. It improved our dedication, determination, whatever you might call commitment, whatever. If you couldn't handle it, he would say, "Go home." It's as simple as that. If you can't handle this, you better go home. Look for another profession. So you had no choice also. And it helped us a lot. A team of also won the Ranji Trophy, the Duleep Trophy, the Irani Cup, you name it. And many cricketers in the north, at least, came up from Bishan's regimen. So I think physical fitness is very important. And I remember playing a Duleep Trophy match, which is the highest class of cricket we could play at that time at the first class level, where we were playing East Zone, which was not known for its fielding. And one of the batsmen in our team edged the ball. It went to a test cricketer who was fielding in second slip. It hit his knee, and he said, "It's yours." So we've seen all this. But that is how cricket has changed. Now you need to be very fit because there's so much cricket. Every day you're playing a different format. Every day there's a challenge whether you're going to hit 50 runs in the first 5 overs, or you're going to bat through the day, or you're in a test match, or you're going to play a one-day match. And then, in the last few overs, the asking rate climbs. So the demands are more. You can't afford to miss a catch. If you miss a catch, the whole country will abuse you for I don't know how long. If you lose a World Cup on the final, imagine the pressure on the player who's fielding and a catch comes to him. He might be praying that this catch should not come to me. So because that's so much pressure there is on the player. So I think you have to be very fit not only physically but also mentally. You have to be in the game. As he said, you have to be in the zone. That is, not think about the crowd, not think about the consequences, just concentrate on what's happening.
Yours.
Ajay, आपने कभी किया था कि there's a catch in the deep and you're saying yours? ऐसा किया आपने कभी?
No, I think I was blessed. And I think you've been really unfair to the past cricketers. I think they were a fitter lot. They were probably fitter than the lot that was there a few years ago. But the point, that fielding that you made, I think the big difference is thanks to the administrators. There's something good also, that you see the fields that today. You're capable of diving on that, or you can slide on that grasses. So you see the standards going up because the boys are practicing on better grounds. They're having better infrastructure to play on.
Sadly, all good things must come to an end as we've been buzzed out. Thank you so much to the panel. This was a great session. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please give them a big round of applause.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? It's about a book.
You can ask a question, but also everybody, please wish Ajay Jadeja a very happy birthday. He came out all the way only for today, so be nice to him.
Thank you. I couldn't have had a better birthday. It's about a book. How many of you know Ranjit Singh ji?
Quite a few.
How many of you know Ranji Trophy? Right? So I think I need to write a book on him because a lot of people have forgotten about. Everybody knows Ranji Trophy, but people have forgotten the man, the Ranji, the Jam Sahib Ranjit Singh ji. So I hope I can one day pen down something that will keep his memory alive. Thank you all for having us here this evening.